live simply. In the world that we live in, it's just challenging. And now with social media, just bombarding our daily lives. It's hard to really focus on what the priorities are. Relationships being the top thing, and that was what I really came to that understanding about you can do a lot of things. There's a lot of things going on. So many options. But when it comes down to what are the real things in life that matter, it's relationships. The challenge with that is, and I had this conversation with a guy in the office the other day. I said the biggest stressors in life will come from people. Yeah. But the planet
would be great if it weren't for people. Like if you want to goober anything up, just involve some people.
But as you know, the best things in life are relationships with people,
Exactly.
And that's what really matters. So you got to take the good with the bad and whatever, but it's about simplifying your life and making sure that, those relationships are the top priority. Then everything else kind of comes from that. And even in that layer, it's challenging because there's multiple layers of relationships.
So many.
Obviously, first and foremost with our Heavenly Father, and then with our family members, and then you kind of sprinkle it out from there.
Like he's the sun and we're the planets.
Oh, absolutely.
The further you get away, Pluto is distant cousin.
Past the fire, past the sounds, moonshine through the clouds, saddle up, 'cause there's no stopping me now.
And welcome to our next episode, Living Well Together.
Big life in a small town.
That's us. And this week, on this episode,
we are honored.
Well, and you'll get a little snippet of what we've been discussing beforehand. You always get the little preview of coming attractions. But we have with us a senior Olympic gold medalist. Dr. Dennis Brickner. We have known Dr. Brickner for a minimum of 30 now.
35.
5 years-ish, something like that.
So you guys knew each other at Palmer too?
We knew of each other, maybe.
I knew
you graduated just ahead of me.
Yeah, you're right. Because I was, a quarter or two ahead of you.
Okay.
Yep.
And my first recollection was you riding the class. You had your bus top on, we had an earring in his ear, and he was riding his 10th stage of class.
Wild.
Yeah, he was a wild child.
I wore a flat top haircut for a long
so
time.
when you say riding, you're talking about his cycle.
He was
on his bicycle.
Yeah, it's 10 speed.
And that was not a small ride. That was a longer ride every day than I thought. Well, this is not smart. And then it got cold, and it's
very cold.
I was thankful for a car.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've known each other for a long, long time.
Yeah.
So Dr. Brickner and I both practice chiropractic. Both have a focus on the upper cervical spine. That's fair to say, right?
Yes.
But take it from there. Give us a little bit of, here's where I grew up, here's how I got into what I'm doing today, and then we'll get into your senior Olympic status.
There we go.
Yeah.
Well, before I say that, I do want to say kudos to you two for doing what you're doing.
Thanks,
I love the fact that you're trying to create community.
Yes.
With that government shutdown in 2020, that has really just isolated a lot of people. For you to have your little corner of the world trying to create community, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
If everybody did that, the world would be a different place. Dealing with their little corner.
It could still be. It could still be simple, and we just include everybody into that simplicity.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't have to be complicated to be friends.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and the thing for me is we, in our town, we've got a Rotary Club, a Lions Club, a Chamber of Commerce. There's all kinds of opportunities for volunteer service. And we've had some of those people on already. The food pantry, I mean, there's a million things. But I can't do all those things, and you can't do all those things.
Yeah.
So our way of connecting people, our way of building community is to let their circle of influence interflow with their circle and their circle. And so, rather than try to join all the things, we're just going to connect everybody's circle by way of YouTube or the airwaves or
Well, and not everybody's going to do what you're doing here, but promoting, what I'm saying is promoting that community field.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. It's really, it's been amazing.
So this is about me, right?
This
So
is
let's get
about you,
started.
Dennis. Yes. This is all about
me.
you.
My favorite subject. No, I'm just kidding.
It should be easy to talk about.
It should be.
Yeah.
It should be. Yes, exactly. So I'm from Tiffin, Ohio, one of 6 kids, and I went to Heidelberg College and ran track there for them, and then went to the University of Toledo, started on a master's program there. Decided that studying corn plasmids, which is basically corn viruses, was not in my wheelhouse.
That was what you were originally going there
That's
for?
what- well,
Okay.
kind of
Oh,
biology, but that
Yeah.
turned it. And then I'm like, okay, I need to do something different. So I'd always wanted to be in the health fields. I was thinking I was potentially going to be a surgeon, cut up people and drug them up. But God had different plans,
Yeah.
and ended up at Palmer in Davenport, Iowa. And the rest is history. After 35 years of practice, still enjoy going in every day. So yeah,
That's fantastic.
It's been a great ride.
Were you a chiropractic patient before you decided you wanted to be a chiropractor?
Yes. When I was
Okay.
running at Heidelberg, I had a really bad hip issue. In fact, I had
A childhood hip issue, right?
Exactly right,
Like
yes.
back in way back as
Right,
a young
right,
person.
right.
It's kind of amazing that you're a track athlete at all, given your history as a way younger person.
Yes, it's almost like I tell people like a Wilma Rudolph story. For those who don't know Wilma Rudolph, she was
We can maybe include a picture of Wilma Rudolph breaking a
But will you
ribbon.
give us a little background?
Yeah. Well, Wilma was diagnosed in the 1940s with polio,
Okay.
and so she ended up being an Olympic gold medalist. And so with myself, I was diagnosed when I was 6 years old with a hip issue called Calvé-Legg-Perthes, basically a hip softening disease. So for about 3 years, a year and a half in crutches, a year and a half using a brace, almost like Forrest Gump, if you remember.
Okay,
Forrest Gump.
yeah.
Yeah, I had the exact same brace as Forrest. My left leg, I had to learn how to relearn how to walk at the age of 9.
Wow.
And so, yeah, it took a long time to develop that because that left leg, as you can imagine, not using it for 3 years, had shrunk to basically nothing. And so, and then started learning, like I said, 9 years of age, learned to rewalk again, and then went to Heidelberg College and started running track for them, which is, kind of
It's
interesting.
amazing.
But you ran track in high school too.
Oh, I did. Yes, I did.
Yeah,
I finally got to that.
It's pretty rare that somebody's going to start their collegiate track career without a high school career.
Oh, this is true.
Yeah. So they-
in fact, I really didn't even want to run collegiately because I was busy in pre-med, and but I'm like, I get. Like I said, I come from a family of 6, and so we're all 2 and 3 sport athletes, and competition is really in my blood, and that's really what got me driven to look at doing the Senior Olympics some 30 some years after that. So.
Such a competitive spirit.
Well, yeah, when I'm the youngest of 4 boys and I get beat up on all the time, and so, you develop some competition.
Are any of them senior Olympians?
No, they are not, which is kind of interesting because actually the brother that's above me is by far the best athlete of all
Really?
of us. And he just decided, well, I've never really talked to him about it, but anyway, so.
That's okay.
Yeah.
And you've got boys of your own.
Yes, which is interesting, the curveball that God throws at us, because the oldest was a really good baseball player. I played a little baseball, but I really couldn't hit my way out of a wet paper bag, but yet he stars in baseball, and so I end up actually coaching him. And then I have five children. The other 4 were into theater and dance and things like that. And
We should
all
definitely
of which I had
include some of that.
zero
Yeah.
interest in. I had one stage presence. I was Pontius Pilate in an Easter
really?
Easter presentation.
How old were you?
I was in my 30s or 40s.
Okay.
Exactly right. Exactly
As an
right.
adult.
I washed my hands of this. See, I still remember the line.
And I don't know why my brain goes to Monty Python when you said that. Keep him. Ditch him.
Completely different thing.
Yeah, not the same.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
That really is incredible. And we have seen their children perform. I've never seen Ethan play baseball, but from a musical theater perspective, these kids are so talented.
Talented kids.
Thanks.
We enjoy it so much, and I was so bummed out about missing Footloose because Melissa said it was phenomenal.
He did do a very nice job. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, and they say the fruit doesn't fall far from the tree.
Yeah.
Well, the fruit really rolled away from this tree in that respect. So it must have been Mom's side.
Different gifts,
Could've been.
different talents
Yeah.
for
Exactly
different
right.
folks.
Exactly.
So I have a question for you. Do you feel like your diagnosis when you were so young helped to shape your health and wellness journey? Do you think it had anything to do with where you wanted to go to help other people?
I would believe that there was probably some influence on that. and I think it certainly has given me some empathy for individuals as well.
sure.
Because like I said, 3 years of just crutching around and whatever, and always being the last kid picked for T-ball because of the fact that I couldn't, whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it has some influence in that regard there. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've logged a lot of miles. Let's not go into any stories about other things. But at the end of the day, we have spent 35 years helping other people regain their health and well-being, preferably without drugs and surgery, obviously, as a chiropractor. When you graduated from chiropractic school, how did you know you're going to land in the Miami Valley?
I did. Very good question. Well, as you said, we have an upper cervical focus. So the desire was to go into a practice with somebody who could kind of mentor me. And Dayton was where I lit. I actually had talked with Dr. Moon prior to that, and he turned me down. Thank you. Exactly, because he knew that you were supposed to go in there. And actually, there wasn't much. Emotionally, and I think just attitude-wise and personality-wise, that was a much better fit for yourself in that capacity. So, but I went in with Dr. Crush and spent a couple of years there, and then ended up, you kind of feel, okay, I can do this.
Right.
First you come out, you feel like, I don't know anything, and then this guy's the greatest, and he walks on water. Your mentor, and then all of a sudden you realize, okay, I can handle this. So 33 years ago, opened up a practice in Springboro. And so for the last 35 years, we've been serving the Miami Valley. And it's been a great ride.
Your practice has been open for 33 years?
Is that
in
what you
Springboro.
said?
In Springboro.
Right.
That's amazing, Dennis.
Yeah.
And one of the things people don't understand, I think people don't recognize, when you graduate, most healthcare, medical school, osteopathic school, dental school, you have a job when you graduate, right? It's called residency, and you leave that location, and you got this safety net that at least lets you start earning money. They may treat you like a slave at the time, but you make a little bit of money right out of school. And there's a big ceremony about that and all that. In chiropractic school, chiropractic education, there's no safety net. You graduate and you either sink or you swim on your own volition. Yeah. And that's where it's really important to make some connections and build some relationships like you did, like I did, because we didn't have to start from ground zero. We didn't have to go into 6 more figures of debt to create something. We could join a facility or a practice that was already in existence. So, and what a blessing that was. And that's part of what we've worked to create now. What we're both working to create now is a safe place for people to land when they graduate. Yes. So they can land and learn and spend a few years and then determine, is this the right community? Am I in the right place? And do I want to perpetuate the relationship or not? But at least then they have the skills and the tools to go create their own, version of reality. Not everybody gets that.
Correct.
So we are very fortunate, very blessed to have landed in a place where we had mentors in that regard too.
Yeah, well, and exactly right. Because I knew coming out of Palmer that I was just a young 25, 26-year-old kid. I had no idea what is, and so to handle people, to deal with individuals that needed some mentoring. So you're absolutely right. So it was a blessing to be able to come into that.
And so at what point how long have you been competitive or running competitively? Because running a full-time practice is a busy game. Raising 5 kids is a busy game. Keeping a household afloat is a busy game. Obviously, you have a fabulous life partner in your wife.
Good job, Melissa.
And she's here. She's not in the room with us, but we'll drag her into
the
this
building,
eventually. And so a team event. But at what point did you decide, okay, I'm not so busy that I can't get back into some competitive running? How long have you been doing it?
I was really curious too.
Always been competitive, obviously, but it's interesting because I look back. Yes, my first stint into this was about 10, 11 years ago.
Okay.
I was at a family function and I got introduced to this older couple that were doing Senior Olympics. I'm like, didn't know that there was such a thing. And, tell me more. The Senior Olympics is 50 and over. I had a hard time with that phraseology to begin with. I'm like, senior, so do I have to relate to being a senior? Right. So, yes. So at about 47, 48, I learned about this. I'm like, okay. So I think, I'd like to get back into that. which is kind of crazy looking back on it now, because you're like you said, 5 kids, they're all into stuff, and I was doing whatever I can to try to fit in a workout here and there and whatnot. So yeah, and then first Olympic game that I participated in was in 2014. Yeah, almost 10 years ago, and qualified for the nationals in my first races.
Yeah,
Really?
So, yeah, and so I ended up in 2015 going to Minnesota to run in the 2015 nationals, senior nationals. They hold this every other year. So that was on the anniversary of my 40th anniversary of running in the Division III national championships for Heidelberg. So yeah, that was kind of a neat little mark there.
That is so special.
So break it down. Are you, as a 50-year-old, you have to be 50 to compete,
Correct.
right? And is there an age upper limit?
No.
So break it down, because here's what's going to happen. Here's my prediction. People are going to hear your episode, and they're going to think, I could do that, or I should do that, or I'm a former athlete, and I want to get involved.
Right.
So as the new guy, the 50-year-old guy, you're not running against the 93-year-old guy.
Correct.
So how what's the format for such a thing?
They're every 5 years. So 50 to 54 will compete against themselves, and then you bump up to 55. That's when you start looking at, I'm older. Good deal. I'm 55 now. You know? I'm in the next bracket, which is what happened last year when I went to the Senior Olympics in Pittsburgh. The new guy, I'm 60 years old. I'm the young buck, in the next age group. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to make this age thing work for me.
Right.
And it did,
Good.
Gold medal in the 200 meters, and then silvers and a couple other events. So yeah. So every 5 years it bumps up. And so if you're on the top end of that, you're
Right.
a little bit of a disadvantage.
Yep.
So anyway.
But but the 5-year gap is a good gap. And that's about what it would be. Not so much in high school. In high school, you might be running as a sophomore against seniors, so there might be a 2 or 3 year gap. Right. But a 5-year gap, I would think, is reasonable as time goes by for people to compete. Who's the oldest, or how old is the oldest senior Olympian that you've interacted with?
103.
Holy Moses!
Yeah.
See, that makes me feel like a total slacker.
I know.
Like, why am I not doing that?
They call her Hurricane Hawkins. Yeah, I think she's still alive. She's 105-ish now, I believe.
Wow.
So yeah, first met her in Alabama. She was down there and set a world record for, I think she was 101 at the time, or 99 or something like that. She lost. There's nobody running against her. She was in, like I said, the 100-year group.
Yeah.
Nobody in the 95 to 100. So she had to back up into the 90
She
group.
lost all of the competitors.
Right. And even with that, she came in second place in that group.
So she ran against the young kids and still came in second.
Right. And, world record, I think, for her was like 37, 38 seconds, something like that. I mean, but the fact that she actually towed the line and was thinking, I'm going to run this thing.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing. You
Yeah.
know? And it was more than, it was a slog, but she was, she got to the end. What is funny is her 70-year-old daughter goes, okay, Mom, you're going to start here.
70-year-old daughter.
Her eyesight wasn't the greatest. She goes, I'm going to go down to the finish line.
I'm going to point you this way. You run to me.
And that's what it was. You run to me. They had a chair there ready for her, about 5-10 yards past. And she...
Sorry, I just got this.
And she actually walked by the chair because the chair was there for her to set in after the race. And she just walked on by it. She's like, I don't need that.
Yeah. Super cool.
It was
what's the difference for you? Because I was a track person through high school. And Dennis has inspired me to try this a time or two. And then I just don't do it. But we ran similar events through high school.
Well, that's what I was wondering. What events do you run?
Okay. So 50 meter, 100 meter, 200 meter, 400 meter. And then the latest one I did a high jump. So it was a five event meet, that one. Yeah.
Right on.
And you did the same type of
Similar
type of
things.
training?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So I wanted to ask, though, compare your times now to those same event times then.
Only if you want to.
Only, well, when I first started
Well,
running,
and people can pick that apart however they want.
Sure.
But the
Yeah.
bottom line is he ain't on the couch.
Right.
I mean, he's getting it done.
Yeah.
So I don't,
well, when I'm running 10 600s in college, and
Right.
now I'm running 12 5s.
Yes.
So, but what I find is comparable to a really good junior high kid,
Yeah.
or even competitive with some high school girls. So that's
Yeah.
kind of neat there. But you talked about that running. The big difference is when you're in college. Everybody's wants to one ups. It's always about trash talking. I'm going to take you down, whatever. What's really neat about that senior community is that we're all pulling for one another.
Yes.
It's like, hey man, I'll see you at the finish line. Hopefully there's no pull muscles. It really is a beautiful community.
I love it.
But
Big difference, though.
my
it
gosh.
really is, because once again, the attitude of the performers. You got people who are living that lifestyle.
Right.
So
Yeah.
living
the
well.
attitude-
They're living well.
well. That's
Yeah.
right.
It's a choice.
It reminds me of the British baking show. They're always so encouraging to each other and just so kind-hearted and so sad when the other person doesn't win. And
Right.
sounds similar.
There's
to
a
that.
big difference in that community, though. The body by Pillsbury is very different than the body by track athlete.
Right.
True.
Yeah, you're right. They're all very encouraging, though.
But it's still a competition. I'm just saying.
Oh, absolutely. There's that competitive edge.
Right.
And there is a little bit of one-ups thing, before, as we're waiting in the staging areas, there's a little bit of that going on, but not the trash talk, it's.
Well, and you sent me some of the pictures and a video already,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so Graham will include some
Okay.
of that in
Yeah.
there. But it looks like you shouldn't even be able to stand up with all the gold medals around your neck in one of them.
I like Flava Flav.
Believe it, yeah. Well, what's interesting about one of those races is the 400 meters. When I went there, I qualified in 5 events. So I'm running the 50 and the 400 of the first day. So you got to qualify to get to the finals. So I qualified in both. Didn't really want to run them all because I'm thinking, okay, do I want to expend all this energy? At 60, it's a little tougher, than when you're 18. And so I ended up qualifying in both because I thought, well, I'll just run the one I qualified in. Well, I ended up qualifying in both. And then I'm looking at, okay, which one do I really want to run? Well, which one am I seated better in? Well, I'm seated equally in both. So I thought, well, I'll drop out of the 400 meters because that one will take the most of my energy away. And my girls shamed me in the running. They're like,
Your daughters?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I ran the day before, qualified.
You girlies.
And the guy who was right in front of me in my heat tripped 5 feet from the track, from the finish line, got up and finished, and he came in 9th place. Well, my girls were going, well, if you wanted to run, or if you had just scratched, he could have ran, So now you're taking this spot. So you can't not run. And I'm like, oh, crud. Okay. So I'm out there on the track, and I'm really kind of miffed that I got myself in this position, to run this race. And so, the gun goes off, and I'm like, I take off running, And I'm actually in 7th place coming into the final stretch. There's 8 runners. I'm in 7th place, and I'm trucking along. I'm like, okay, I've come this far. I'm going after it. So I start taking down the 6th guy, the 5th place guy, 4th place guy, and we have about 50 meters or so left to go. And I'm like, I didn't come this far not to leave without a medal. That's where the competitive stuff comes in. So I'm running down the 3rd, the 2nd, and just ran out of real estate. So I came in 2nd. I'm like, okay, that's good.
That's incredible. So where did you get that in you that it's like, I'm going for this? You had already just run all those other races.
Well, I know, but my girls forced me on the track. I'm like, okay, that's not so
So
bad.
from the girls, does your family help to inspire you to just go for it?
Well, in that situation, it was. No, I'm usually on the track practicing on my own. Okay. So, it's got to be an internally generated.
I have to say that is a good combination, though, motivation and inspiration.
Oh, yeah.
And the 400 meters is a very special race. Not everybody is cut out for the 400
yes.
meters.
How many times around the track
That's
is it?
once.
Once,
One
but
time
it's
around.
all the way around.
But you're going at
all the way around.
It's all the way around.
all the way around, guys.
And why it's so tough, and Terry knows this. It's a gut
special
buster.
race.
You
Yeah.
just got to go, and you go as hard as you can for as long as you
So
can.
we have recently become acquainted with a recent Olympian, a gold medal Olympian, whose name is LaShawn Merritt.
Yeah.
And LaShawn is, we're looking at maybe bringing him to Fairborn. He may be a guest on the podcast, but he also may do a speed camp and a training sesh and a motivational sesh for our kids
It would
here
be
at
fantastic.
Fairborn High School.
We just are getting a new facility. It's gorgeous.
yeah.
And so it would be so fun if he could join us almost
But,
for a grand opening type of a
But to hear him talk about what it takes is from a
wild.
a world champion perspective and a sport that is, I mean, it's very individual. You're running on a team, but it's all about what you get done as an individual. So
Well, it's a good microcosm, really, of life. Just like with health, it's internally generated. We know that, no pill, no potion, lotion is going to create that. You have to do that yourself. And it's not easy, because if it was easy, everybody would be healthy,
Right.
And I had a friend of mine just a couple of years ago. She goes, I would love to do that. I'm like, well, really, just like today, you're out there running. I'm the only one on the track, and you're running these 300 sprints and whatnot. And you get the wind, 20-mile gust coming in your face, and you're like, oh, you're trying to work
Be easier
through
to
it.
be home on the couch watching golf
Amen. Yeah, it would be exactly right.
with Cheetos.
So when you are at your meets, how many meets per season are you usually involved
Usually
in?
2 to 3.
2 to 3,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
And so during those meets, do you, are you still practicing? Do you run in the rain? What do you do while you're there?
Great question. In the meets?
Yeah.
If it's bad weather, you're running.
Okay.
Yeah. In fact, when I was in West Virginia, 3 or 4 years ago, I was running in the West Virginia state meet, and we had this thunderstorm was coming, and I'm looking at the meet director. I'm like, okay, why are we not speeding this along?
Yes.
I really don't want to run in the rain, So
Or thunder and lightning.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, they typically cancel it for that stuff,
Okay.
but it was running.
Yeah.
I ended up running that one in the rain, one of the races. So it happened.
How'd you do?
Won that one.
And so here's a weird thing, though. You're talking about training. Nobody shows up at a meet 2 or 3 times a year, having done no training.
Yeah.
Right? Or do
Right.
they? Maybe they do.
No. Well, there was
It
one
would show.
It's funny you say that, because I was in the Indiana meet, and this guy shows up and he goes, I saw this meet was advertised online. I thought, I think I'll run. And he had trained for like a week,
Right.
And it comes out of the blocks, and guess what? He's pulling his hamstring. And whatnot. Yeah. So it's all about training. And that's what I'm saying. It's a good microcosm of life. It's just like with anything else, disease, whatnot, you have to bump up the body, the internal environment, in order to withstand all the virons that are around us, that deal with that. You have to experience that. You got to build up the body in order to get ready for the long run. The same thing with track, you don't sit around on the couch
you gotta train.
and then decide, I got to meet this week. Oh,
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
Here, hold my beer.
Right.
I'll be right back. I'm going to go run 50.
Well, Lisa, you had asked, what is some of the motivation? Part of the motivation of that as well is the fact that there was a book that was written, Chuck Swindoll wrote, Living Beyond Mediocrity. And, there's just so much of that in the world today. And I'm like, no, I don't want to be that. I don't want to be a part of that. So that's part of the motivation. And yourself, to be a healer, not the healer. We know who the healer is, but be a part of that healing game. You have to be healed yourself, and that's just part of that process as well.
Well, and I think both of us are pretty good examples of the fact that our patients, the people we take care of, will never be healthier than we are. Like, my commitment is I will walk my talk. I will live my world. It's the same one I preach. Now, I'm not training to run in Senior Olympics, but I stay fit. I will always be as fit, no less so, than the average guy that I take care of, or gal. So it's the chiropractic lifestyle is one of the things I think most people don't comprehend. Most people have a preconceived idea of, here's what I think chiropractic is. So how do you offset that in your practice and in your life? Because if you say, well, I'm a chiropractor, if you're talking to somebody on an airplane and they get around to what do you say? How do you describe what you do versus what they think you do? Because everybody thinks you're whacking them and hoping for the best.
Right. You're right.
We don't do any whacking here.
No, it's a whack-free zone.
Right. Well, natural health science, most people don't realize that. That helps to improve nerve system function so that the body can optimize its performance. That's really the bottom line. And then, depending upon whether they ask questions or not, we get into more of that. But, as you know, the nerve system runs it all. And we try to be a good example of that for those around us. And not that we're perfect in those situations, but you continue to strive to be above mediocrity. And unfortunately, in today's world, it's not that challenging anymore.
Yeah, we have turned into one of the sicker, slower tribes on the planet here in the good old USA.
But all you can do is be an example.
Right.
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
can lead
And
the
what
horse
you're doing
along.
is definitely setting an example. So physically, I love what you told us about, the training and how you prepare. What about your mindset?
Glad you asked that, because that was the other thing. Dr. Terry knows this as well. Not only the challenge of trying to be the healer for the individuals,
Yes.
but dealing with, we have 50, 60 different personalities that come into our office on a regular basis. People don't realize the challenging of trying to match, with a person's mindset or with an attitude or whatever. It's not an easy task.
You have to start from where they are.
Yeah.
You can't start from where you are. You got to start from where they are.
Well, and you have to realize it's not about you. And there's days when you're a little tired, or you've had a rough day or a bad day or whatever. They don't care about that. The person that's in the room with you doesn't care about that. So, you make it about them, and it is at that point in time. But
That's true.
But the challenge of doing that on a repetitive basis, as I was telling my kids, the biggest challenge I've found in 35 years of doing this is remaking myself, pretty much. What I mean is that a new patient could come into the office. It's the very first time they've ever experienced chiropractic or the adjustment. It's probably for you and I both, we've given 300,000. I've come.
We
Calculate
talked
that.
about that
We did,
recently.
yeah.
We did some math.
300,000 adjustments, and you get to a place where you're pretty good at that, know. But for them, it's their very first one. So getting your mind wrapped around the fact that this is their first experience, and
probably life-changing.
exactly right.
So do you have like a top three? Like, here are three things that I do to maintain my mental and spiritual and social well-being for that purpose? Do you have a morning routine maybe, or certain things that you'll focus on to keep your mind right for that reason?
Good question. Yes, daily devotions. As I said, we are part of the healing process. We are not the healer. It's God the Father, and so focusing in on that first and foremost. Dr. Brooks, who was one of our mentors from years and years ago, he talked about motivating themselves. I think didn't he listen to like Looney Tunes song or something? Do you remember what he talked about? No. And he said
Looney Tunes song?
I think it was.
So just kind of silly and happy?
Yeah, and
I love
make
that.
him smile, and then he'd go into the office. So it's prepping yourself for that. Yeah. I never show up to the office 5 minutes before. It's 30 minutes or an hour before.
Right.
And it's a mental process of looking through and visualizing who's coming in and what they need. Yeah, even after 35 years, I still do that.
Same.
Yeah.
Same. We look at that. We go through the roster every single day because you do got to show up in your right mind. You can't show up managing your own baggage and expect to take great care of people. It's got to be about them.
Amen.
And it's probably similar to being on the track. Like for you to have the mindset to go out there and compete and be the best that you can. It's physically, but it's also mentally too.
Exactly.
So maybe the things that you do in your practice life every day kind of spill over into your competitive track.
Oh, absolutely.
Olympian
You're right,
journey.
Lisa. And one of the things that I constantly try to work on is that mental aspect of things, visualizing the adjustment, visualizing the individual.
Yeah.
And same thing when you're getting up to the line, you're getting ready to run. I was reading or listening to a podcast the other day about weight training, and they were talking about how important it is to visualize the lift before. Science is showing us that you get more out of that. So,
Seeing it first.
Right. Yeah, I'm reading a book by Carolyn Leaf. She talks about the brain and how important the mind is, and it really is she said, the most amazing creation that God ever put together.
Have you listened to or read David Eagleman's book on the brain called The Brain?
I have not.
Same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, he goes into an amazing detail about how just like crazy impressive the technology of the brain is, and how we don't know much about it.
Exactly.
We think we got it all figured out. What we know is we don't know nearly as much as we thought.
Well, an exciting thing for you and I is we get to work with that every day.
Every single day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are not the healers. We're just removing interference to
The body
healing
doesn't
process.
need. The body's built to heal.
Right.
He put it together pretty well.
Right. And we can look like heroes as long as we just don't mess
All
things
day.
up, right?
Yeah. I did a little video about that recently. It's like, quit telling me I'm the one. I'm not the one. I'll help you get rid of the trash in your system, but we don't do the healing.
Right. You do.
Now, here's the other side of that, though. If they get worse, I don't take credit for that either.
Well, that's what I
Fair
tell
and
people.
square.
Like, I don't take credit for your correction. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But getting interference out of the system is the key.
But I don't know that people understand on a general basis that, chiropractors, they think bones and you guys are talking brain.
Right. Brain nerve. People don't realize, I don't believe either, that the body is a self-healing organism.
Right.
And you're right. It doesn't need a lot of help. Actually, health is automatic. I was thinking on this.
Health is our birthright. It comes with the package.
Well, fortunately, God put everything we need within. We just need to feed it right, exercise it right, love on it, whatever. And it does the right things.
Until it doesn't.
Until it doesn't, but usually it doesn't because
Something's in the way.
Exactly right.
Yeah, we got to get rid of what's in the way.
But it's really an automatic system as long as you do the right things for it. So
yeah, it's super fun. It is so fun to watch. With practice, tell us what, from a lifestyle management. I got 5 kids. I got a spouse. I got to train. I got to do this. How many hours a week do you put in taking care of other people in the office?
Actually, in the office, usually 20, 23 hours. Yeah.
Okay. And see, that's about where we are, 23, 24 hours. And it was one of the things that attracted me to being a chiropractor.
He's efficient.
But the thing that attracted me to doing this as a young person was I can set my own hours. I can own my own business. I don't have to take care of everybody. If I can't help them, I don't keep them, that kind of thing.
Right.
But people always think, well, gosh, you only work 24 hours a week. That is 100% not true.
Exactly right.
There's no such thing as a day off. I've been in here on Thanksgiving or whatever, or we're doing admin type things. And so even though we are taking care of people a given number of hours, we spend an extraordinary amount of energy running a shop and running a business.
Right, because I'm also doing telephone consults.
Right.
When people call in, first things I do is do a phone consult with them, just see if it's a good fit for them.
Right. Right on.
Sometimes
They have questions.
They have questions, and if I can do a self-help thing, then go for it. And if you really need me, then give me a call. Type thing. So you kind of cut through all that. So that takes time to do all, because I'm doing 5 or so of those a week.
You got to book it. It's got to be on the calendar.
Exactly right. So.
Yeah, and that's a good way to do it, though. And I'm sure the new patients really appreciate it, those consults.
Absolutely. And, they can try some homework at home, doing some of those stretches or icing or whatever. And if it doesn't work, they're going to be calling me anyways or whatever. Yes. And there's certain things that, we will deal with, or I'll refer down the road to somebody that I think is a better fit for them. So,
yeah, that's wonderful.
It's a pretty good game.
Yeah,
it is a great game.
What were you thinking? You were just thinking something.
There are so many things that we could dive into as far as lifestyle management. If you're training for gold medal performance, how do you manage your diet? What do you do differently with your food intake, if anything? Different supplements, different foods, things you avoid or things you add in?
Yes. When I was getting ready for the senior games and nationals, actually lost about 13 pounds in 2 weeks because I just really went clean and cut out anything superfluous. Really high quality proteins, did a lot of standard processed shakes, lots and lots of water in cutting down body fat. I didn't measure it, but probably went from a 20, 25 down to a 10-ish, somewhere in there.
Yep.
And I do believe that made all the difference in the world for that gold medal run. So but what's also interesting is the side effects of all that, less joint achiness and things like that. We really are, we are our own worst enemy.
We do it to ourselves.
We are our own worst enemy, with all the preservatives and things that are going on in the body. And I know all about the hormone disruptors that we put on our body as well. Right. And so, it's amazing the difference on that. And honestly, I'm not too bad. I'm pretty good year round.
Yes.
I mean,
you're not carrying around 70 extra pounds.
No. Well, and nobody's perfect. There's only one perfect man.
Right.
That was
and I'm taking her to dinner later.
I love you.
Be careful.
Flatterer.
Right.
I know what you meant.
Yeah. But, I live by the 90-10 principle, whatever. It's not what you do from Christmas to New Year's that does you in.
Right.
It's what you do from New Year's to Christmas that
That
goads
is
you in.
Right.
So good, Dennis.
And
That's such a
so
good way to think about that.
Try to live by that. But there are those days like in preparation for a meet where I'll bump that up even more. I'll make sure it's not 90-10. I'm sure it's 99-1 or
Right.
whatever, you know.
Right.
So
And
during
that's
that
discipline.
time, go ahead, babe. During that time when you were that 2 weeks before where you lost 13 pounds, you were still at that track every day, and the things that you were eating were feeding the body.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes. Higher protein, a higher quality of carbohydrate intake, that type of thing, a lot more water. Yeah. And by that time, I'm usually tapering down my workouts anyway.
Okay.
So it's not like I'm going as hard as I was the month or two before. Yeah, you got to taper down to that.
Recovery.
Right.
Restoration.
Well, and as you
recovery.
know, there's a lot more you can do when you're 18, 19.
Yeah.
When you're 60, as I tell a lot of people, your buffer, your latitude is a lot smaller from what it takes to really get the benefit of the exercise versus doing too much. It's a very, very small.
It's a complete reversal. It used to be that I could perform this long at this level, and then it only took this much time to recover. Now I perform this long at this level and it takes this much time to
exactly,
recover.
exactly.
And that's just a process.
Yeah.
Right. That just is the way it is. But
Well-
to neglect the knowledge of it would be detrimental.
Very
Yeah.
detrimental, yes. Well, and a good example of that is running in the nationals. I'd have to believe, I didn't check everybody else's credentials, but I ran in 5 events. I think I was probably one of the few, if not the only one, to do that. And to do that at 60 and be able to come out of that with no issue, very little issue.
Yeah.
Just some extra sore muscles.
Yes.
It's really kind of amazing. And not that I'm a Superman or anything like that, but when you do the things that the body needs, it does perform, and usually performs very, very well.
But it ages much slower. You can look at guys on that track that are 70 years old and they may look 75 or 80. And then you'll see guys like you who are a given age, but don't look that age. You look younger than that age or perform even younger than you would expect to be at that age. But that's all lifestyle driven.
Absolutely.
That is 100%. People blame their genes. Well, my dad had a bad thing. I'll have a bad thing. Or my mom had a bad thing. I'll have a bad thing. And that's garbage. 85% of the trash we're managing from our health standpoint is lifestyle induced.
Exactly right.
And so to live on, processed food is a different, like I said, the body by Pillsbury is different than the body by garden-based and clean meats. And so it's a different concept for most people.
And that's a good and a bad thing. Genetically, like you said, 15, 20% is genetically driven. If you want to use that as an excuse, you're host.
Right.
But if you want to have the ability in your own hands to take stock in the way your life's going to turn out, then it's a good thing. But the
Right.
problem is you got to do it.
Right. Well, and like you said, the 90-10
true.
thing, we kind of roll it as an 80-20 thing. Our
Different times of the years, 90,
Right,
10,
right,
sometimes
right,
80, 20. Sometimes it's like up
Yeah.
60,
Yeah.
40.
Well, but
just real life, guys.
A, you got to
Right.
understand there's a difference. It
Yes,
matters.
it
And then
does
B, you
matter,
have
and
to
you
be
can feel it.
disciplined enough to understand that applying what you know matters. Like how old are you going to get? Maybe you don't get to decide. But how well you get old, you get to have a huge impact on.
Amen.
And so the reality is if we neglect that, then we continue to see. I think we're the first generation in recent history where our life expectancy is lower than our children's. Like we're not expected to outlive some of our children. And that's the first time since World War II.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's crazy.
Our health status as a nation has been jeopardized this way.
And even worse for those coming
Yeah.
up because of
Right.
the fact of where they're at. Exactly.
Who
Right.
was it? We had somebody in here the other day. Maybe this was somebody in the office. Oh, it was somebody in the office. And this fella is 83. And at like 80% of the food that's now in a grocery store did not exist when he was a kid. Like if you walk through the grocery store right
You mean
now.
because of the manufactured foods?
Because of manufactured and
Right.
processed
Right.
things.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
The grocery store didn't have
terrible.
this many products in it when he was a
Right.
kid at 10 years old, so 73 years ago.
Absolutely.
80% of what's in that grocery store didn't exist.
Right. Well, if people would go into the grocery store, turn right,
Yeah.
stay on the outside,
Yeah.
Follow the
Just do a
perimeter.
big
follow the
circle.
Yep.
Stay out of the middle.
Yeah.
Where all the temptations are.
Exactly right.
It's crazy. It's so crazy.
Why didn't God have us so that we'd be tempted by carrots or broccoli or cauliflower? Why is it,
I know.
Yeah.
Unless we covered in cheese and honey
or
butter.
chocolate or yeah.
I know, but you know what? If you don't eat those sugar-fied foods, the manufactured sugary foods, and then you have a carrot, it's amazing how sweet and sugary it does taste by itself. It just depends on what you're comparing it to.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I've done juicing with carrots.
Oh,
It
yeah.
is amazing
Oh,
how
my
sweet.
gosh. And
It's a lot of sugar, actually. You got to
Yeah.
be careful with it.
Right.
It's a
right.
lot of
That-
sugar.
Yeah, you got to throw some Granny Smith apples on top of that.
Right.
Yeah,
It's
to
a
kind
lot
of
of
mitigate
sugar.
all that. Yeah, exactly.
For sure. So what are your goals for your athletic career? You think you'll keep running?
Well, yes. Much to the chagrin of my wife, because I told her I was retiring last year. I mean, I got my gold medal,
one
I'm
of
like,
those.
okay, could you? And then
Isn't that a Tom Brady thing, right?
Tom Brady thing. Well, here's the deal.
Okay, tell me.
The Pan American Masters Games are coming this year to Ohio, actually.
Oh, wow.
Cleveland, yes, in July. And so I'm looking at that. Masters is a different track of the senior running. And so I'm like, okay, I've never ran an international meet. And so
Whip some kid from Russia, some old guy.
So will these be all new competitors for you? You won't see
They'll-
any of the ones that
there'll
you've
probably
competed
be, no, I'm sure there'll be a crossover.
Some
Okay.
overlap, yeah.
Yeah, because I was looking at some of the results from a couple of years ago. I think they ran in Italy, and I saw some of the names from that. And I recognize a few of the names there. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
How can people tune in to watch?
I think our ESPN. No, I
Maybe we'll set a podcast booth up
There
at
you
the
go.
Pan Am Seniors,
so fun.
and we'll be with headphones and we'll broadcast from the games.
Actually, you know what?
It would be really fun.
There was I did watch a YouTube video from one of the games, the Pan Am games, and they did have some masters on there. So whether they'll have anything like it or
Yeah.
not, I'll let you know. I
Okay,
don't know.
that sounds good. What are the dates, Dennis?
So that'll be in July. So it's a whole
July.
week of July, whole week of training.
Okay.
I do have two pre-meets coming up. One is the Ohio State meet, and then the other one is Indiana. So I'll use those as tune-ups, kind
Oh,
of prep,
got it.
prep myself, see where I'm at.
Okay.
And then we'll let it roll.
So you'll still be
Let
doing
it
3
roll.
meets this year?
3 meets this year, exactly right.
Melissa, we're there with you.
Yeah, we'll be on
We'll be
Melissa's
cheering.
cheering
We'll be
section.
cheering for you and for Dennis.
Be there in spirit. Right?
No, actually, if it's in
I love
Ohio, we
that.
may just come up.
Yeah, up to Cleveland. That would be super duper fun. And you guys have a wedding coming up too.
Yeah, well, we got a lot
Yeah,
going on.
you
Yes,
got-
Eliana, our
yeah.
number 3 is going to be second one out of the chute this year.
Yep.
Ethan got married in January, and so
Yep.
Eliana's getting married in May, and then Jaron is going to be doing another production of Oklahoma, so that'll be in June.
Wonderful.
So yeah, a lot going on.
And what's Gideon doing right now?
Gideon is working to become an electrician.
That is
Yes.
so fantastic. Yeah.
he's,
He was doing some construction.
Yes,
Right?
and now
Is he
he's-
kind of focused more on the electric?
Exactly right.
Go part of
He's
that.
going to
Okay.
become licensed in that. He's in an apprenticeship right now. Say that 5 times fast. Yeah.
Well, you
Yeah.
have an amazing family. They're beautiful.
Thank you.
They're
Thank you.
beautiful inside and out. You know how
Talented.
much I love Melissa. She's definitely one of my besties. And
And the feeling goes both ways. yes,
we're going to go have some dinner together here soon.
absolutely.
Yeah.
In fact, why don't we wrap this up? I'm
All
ready
right. We're going to go to the last queen. We'll see you soon, Adrian.
to go. Yeah, it is nice. Anything else you want our listeners or viewers to know?
What would you like to
We got to see
send
this
off with?
brand new shiny
I
tabletop.
see that. Well, yeah, a couple of things. I actually wrote notes because I figured you'd probably be asking
Perfect,
about
yeah.
a wrap up. It really is about how you finish. Mm-hmm.
Oh,
You know,
nice.
because when you look at me as a kid, when I was 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, it's like, would I be able to do that? It's about how you finish with that. We already talked about living above mediocrity, working, and that's a constant effort. And then I guess the last thing would be living clean. We know Dr. Chestnut, kind of mentors of ours. And when I talk about living clean, eating well, moving well, and thinking well, that's all of that goes into that aspect of making sure the body is working the way it's supposed to. And I think of all of that, probably the biggest one is the thinking process, the mental, spiritual, emotional part of that. We talked a little bit about, first and foremost, our relationship with our Heavenly Father has to supersede everything else. And then your relationship with your family, and then branching out from there. I am very blessed to live with my best friend, and that relationship is huge. And it does, as I know, you drift into other aspects of your life, and so it's a good thing. So
Well, you're living every bit of what you just said.
Yeah, thank you.
The thinking,
It's good to know good people.
It is good to know good people. You inspire us, Dennis. Thank you so much for being with us today. We appreciate it.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure. I enjoyed
Thanks,
it
Graham.
immensely.
Yeah. And if you like what you see or what you're hearing,
Smash.
it. Smash that subscribe button, share, like, tell a friend, call a buddy, all of that.
Yeah, this is going to be a good episode to share with our viewers. We appreciate it.
And we'll look forward to seeing you next time.
Yeah. See ya. Bye.